Hi folks, how are you doing? The last game of this sixth round of candidates tournament in Russia ended with this game, the game between Levon Aronian and Dmitry Andreikin. A very long and interesting game in which the Armenian GM prepared kind of an unusual opening, tried to surprise Andreikin and make him think right from the opening. Let us see what happened, because it was a really interesting battle. And Aronian, as I said, is white. He plays c4, c6, inviting to get into the Slav defense with d4, d5. But Aronian plays knight f3, d5 anyway, g3, and this is already sort of a pawn sacrifice, because black can take and try to retain that pawn. In fact, Andreikin took on c4, now bishop g2, and knight d7. Well, it is maybe possible to play b5 right away. Maybe a little bit more dangerous, because the bishop on the long diagonal may be dangerous there. For instance, a4, a typical move. Now a6 still may be played. A takes, c takes. White has definitely some compensation, and after b3, c takes, queen takes, there is definitely lots of compensation for the pawn. Open lines for the queen, the rook, the bishop. But otherwise, after a6, bishop b7 also, after a4, bishop b7 also makes sense. A takes, c takes. Well, just to illustrate that b5 immediately was probably still possible. But Andreikin plays more sound, more classical. He develops a piece, knight d7. Short castle, knight gf6. Now white plays queen c2, willing to recover the pawn on c4. Knight b6, knight a3. It's interesting because Andreikin himself had played this line as white twice in 2012, so as much of us in the internet were thinking he was caught in an opening preparation in an unknown territory. Well, it isn't that true, because he played this twice with white pieces a couple of years ago. Now black keeps protecting the pawn, bishop e6, now knight e5. Is not a very common move, but that's what Aronian has more or less prepared. He's attacking the pawn with 3 pieces, and which is defended by black with 2. By far the most common move here is to play knight g5, and black could play, for instance, queen d7. If knight takes, the queen could take, etc. But Aronian, as we will see, has prepared an interesting piece sacrifice. Knight e5 is played, and black keeps protecting the pawn with queen d4. Here Aronian goes ahead with the interesting piece sacrifice I just mentioned. He takes on c6 with the knight. This had already been played, but very few times. In fact, 3 games in my database, though with some notable, with some strong GMs playing this as white: Timan, Kaidanov, and Pansulaya. B takes c6, bishop takes c6 check, forking, king and rook, and well, the position is going to be materially imbalanced. White is going to have black king in the center without castling, and is going to try to create lots of attack, to create initiative against it. Couple of options here for black. Basically 4 options. Let us see what Andreikin played. He played king d8, probably the best one. There are other ones. The worst of them, of course, knight bd7 is dropping the rook on the corner for free, so not a good option there. It was also possible to play knight ft7, and here knight b5, an intermediate move, attacking the queen and threatening to check on c7, maybe to take the rook for free, for instance. So queen e5 is covering that, but after d4, c takes, e takes, black could play rook a from a to c8, but knight takes on a7, protecting c6, attacking the rook, so complicated position we would have here. And another possibility, it was to play bishop d7. Here probably white takes on the corner, the rook, knight takes, and now he takes on c4. The bishop isn't guarding c4 anymore, so not that great for black to lose another pawn. So king d8 was played correctly by Andreikin. Now the intermediate knight b5. It's favored by the engine. In fact, instead, if white just takes on the rook, well, the knight must take, and life goes on. But the intermediate knight b5, just to see where is black going to put his queen. Andreikin went queen c5 correctly. Other possibilities, well, what if queen e5? Now once again d4 is interesting, and if it takes, queen to take now with a check, and after bishop d7, for instance, say bishop f4 attacking the queen, and white has lots of activity here, lots of initiative against black king. Both rooks can come to the cd file, and this is really looking very scary for black. So it was important to put the queen in a good place after knight b5. Andreikin went to c5 correctly, and now Aronian takes. At this point, Aronian already had like an hour of time advantage, which it is clear that he had prepared this at home. And Andreikin, well, though he had played this line, the early moves of this line as white, he probably wasn't he didn't know that well the queen sacrifice on c6, so he was thinking rather a lot for each move. And well, this is what Levon was looking for, to make him think from the beginning and try to catch him in time, trying to catch him with his preparation. Andreikin takes on b5. He had the option to take the knight or the bishop. I would have probably taken the bishop, but okay, I would have taken there. And now a couple of options, for instance, for white to go back to c3 or to protect it with a4. But the way Andreikin plays, he just gives white the possibility to keep his bishop pair. Now white goes back to g2, so he got more or less what he wanted, an unbalanced position and lots of time pressure for his opponent. In the game I just mentioned, in which Timman played this sacrifice against Jan Smits, another Dutch GM in Wykanzi last year in 2013, Smits player here h5, looking for some counterplay on the king side. Timman stopped that with h4, and after bishop f5, e4, bishop d7, a4, knight takes a4, e5, knight e8, followed, and well, finally Timman won this game. But here Andreikin plays another move. He goes bishop d7 right away. Couple of options white had here. He goes with a very logical b3. The other option which was being analyzed was to play a4, and the point is that after knight takes e4, a4, d3, c takes d3, e takes d3, white is going to in some moment take the pawn on a7 and develop the rook and have a little more pressure with this piece. Well, instead b3 seems really once again very logical. The bishop could be developed, the lines could be opened for the rook. Black hurries here to develop his pieces. Andreikin plays e5. The bishop now can play. Instead, of course, he takes b3. Now he takes b3. Once again, the rook would be free to play on the a file, so probably not that great. But e5 makes lots of sense. A nice concrete move here by Aronian. Rook b1, threatening, well, putting the rook in what will be probably an open file in a move or two. Otherwise, it was also, well, could seem logical to play bishop b2, attacking there, and a big diagonal, now bishop d6, and well, how to continue. My first idea was, of course, not a great one, to play f4, but the engine is going to give me a bad evaluation of this move. Now black is better. Rook e8. I have to play a3. So it's good Levon didn't follow my instincts. Rook b1, much better move. Now c takes b3 and rook takes b3. Really nice position it seems to be for Aronian, but really it's astonishing how well Andreikin plays in this phase of the game. He with really little time on the clock, with already some time pressure to reach time control on the 14th move, he finds very concrete and correct moves. He takes on e2, quite brave. Position is quite unclear. Engines even say black is slightly better, so anything could happen here. Of course, it's very sharp. Just a little mistakes, and black could be lost because he's king in the center. He hasn't completed development yet, and he's taking pawns with the queen here and there. Well, Aronian thought for a while here, and finally played bishop a3. Seems to be correct to get rid of this bishop. Bishop takes, rook takes, of course attacking on a7. Once again, a very accurate move by Andreikin, impressive defense. Queen c4. Of course, queen exchange would favor black. Aronian doesn't go that way. He doesn't take on c4. After this, if rook takes e7, a7, rook e8, and black should be able to at least hold. So Aronian went with a practical decision with the queen to b1. Now king e7, rook takes a7. The knight is under attack, so queen d4. Rook b7, the knight once again is under attack, and well, a couple of chances had here Andreikin to play, a couple of moves to choose. He went with the knight to a4, maybe sort of to prevent the a4, the a2 pawn from advancing too fast, but you know the old rule, putting the knight on the rim is usually not the best idea. The engine even says that with knight bd5 it was much more accurate. For instance, rook e1, but now black rook could go either to, I don't know, c8, a8 to an open file, and it seems black has regrouped, completed development, and his king doesn't feel that bad. So this could be a complete success out of the opening for Andreikin. Not that knight a4 is bad, but well, surely it looks a little bit more suspicious. Now rook c1 was played here, and rook d8, and the engine once again keeps saying, in this moment it was, well, Aronian thought for a while, and while the engine was saying that exchanging queens in this way was the best white had, but of course in a practical sense of way this can't be good when you are trying to press your opponent, and he has very low time with his long time. This could follow with queen takes, rook takes, king f8. The knight could be a little bit bad placed here on the rim on a4. Bishop f3 to try to hunt the knight, but there is some tactical solution for black. Bishop e8, so that after bishop d1 attacking the knight, knight d5, and in fact the engine says the best is to take on a4, and white is up a pawn, but his a and d pawn may be a little weak, especially the d1, so this should be probably holdable, not that bad endgame for black. Aronian didn't went for this. After rook d8 he thought for a while, and he didn't exchange the queens, as he made a pragmatic decision. He plays just h3. He stops, for instance, the knight or the bishop from going to g4. He makes a room for his king and passes the turn to black just to make him burn his time again. King f8 was played here, queen b3, and now Andreikin plays, which seems to be not a very accurate move. At least the engine says so, but very complicated here. He plays e4. Well, it was suggested to play queen takes d2, very dangerous. Black is taking pawns here and there all the time. Now rook c4 could be played, but now black has queen e1 check, king h2, and queen a5, defending just in time. Now queen a3, the knight is pinned, king g8. White could try rook takes d7, removing the defender. Knight takes, rook takes a4. Material equality is back, and well, this may be better for white, but this was another chance, another move Andreikin had. Instead of e4, e4 kind of lets white play rook c4 on the spot, but still Andreikin finds accurate defending moves. Queen d4, so that if white keeps taking on a4, the rook on b7 would be hanging. That's why Aronian here plays queen b4 check, king g8. It seems Andreikin has finally castled in a funny way. Rook d4. There are lots of tactical threats against black pieces, as lots of them are protected very mildly. A couple of pieces are overwhelmed with defensive tasks. Queen c6 was played here, and well, if queen c5 for instance, maybe queens may be exchanged, but white will take the e4 pawn. But in this case, once again, queen c6, bishop takes e4 was possible. I'm not really sure what exactly didn't Levon like about taking the pawn. I can't see any clear counterplay or threat by black. But okay, liquidating into which seems a more or less winning endgame must be a safer choice. He took on d7 with the rook on b. Now knight takes d7. Of course, not a great idea to take with the rook, as queen b8, back rank, alarm. Black is getting checkmated. So better take with the knight, and after queen takes a4, massive exchange here, and white is up a pawn in this endgame. He's going to win the one on e4, probably going to lose the one on d2, and well, this is of course a much better endgame for white. Let us see if Levon can capitalize this into the victory. Knight f8 was played here, so that after rook takes e4, black takes on d2, a4, rook a2, and of course this passed pawn, the a pawn is the main point of attention here. Black has put his rook behind it, which is good for him, but he will have to suffer a lot in this endgame to have a drawn game, to have a draw. By this point, by the way, both players were already in severe time trouble, so even Aronian had very little minutes on the clock. There is no increment, remember, until move number 60. And there we go. They went on with bishop f3, g6, king g2, knight e6, rook c4. Aronian wasn't really that sure now that this was going to be easy. He was hesitating a lot. Rook c4, king g7, bishop d5, king f6. Black's king is really getting quite active. He's moving forward fast. Rook e4, rook a3. Finally, white took on e6. Now, of course, he has the a pawn and he has a weak pawn to attack on e6. But will this be enough to win? Not that clear. Maybe at this point. Rook f4 check, king e7 was played. Now h4, h5, and finally they reached time control. Basically, last 5 or 6 moves were kind of bullet game, and they were just blitzing the moves because they had literally seconds on the clock. Good that they didn't have to write down the moves when they ran their 5 minutes on the clock. And well, rook e4, king f7 was played here. Black is once again Andreikin is really playing a really impressive defensive game here, just not letting white have more chances than he deserves. King f1. After a long time of thinking, Aronian tries to go with the king in this way, trying to improve his king, because otherwise there is not clear way to improve his position, to just get the pawn going, for instance, or try to win another pawn. Rook a2, king e1, king f6, king d1. Here the trick was, well, can black take the pawn on f2? Well, he can't, because now rook f4, check, forcing the exchange of rooks, and now the a pawn is kind of unstoppable. If black king goes after it, of course white takes all the other black pawns and wins the game easily. So correctly after king d1, Andreikin keeps defending accurately, king e7, and after basically Aronian here more or less gave up with his logical moves. F4 is leaving a very weak G3 pawn, but he had no other reasonable choices to try to keep pushing. Now Rook A3, very logical. After King C2, Black took on G3. Now Rook D4, but Rook E3, and after King B2, E5, F takes, and they agree the draw because, well, Black would take on E5. He would easily stop the A pawn, and he will have even a 2 against 1 on the king side, which will easily hold the draw for him. So really a very long game. In fact, the last game to finish in the 6th round of the Candidates Tournament 2014, which finished with a draw. And well, Andreikin had to defend throughout all the game, kind of a nightmare for him. But finally he succeeded, and Levon failed to convert, which was very promising position both on the clocks on the board, and well, but he still is up there in the standings. Let us see what deserves the rest of the rounds have for us. Hope you liked the video, and thanks for